Jody. I'm a massage therapist. This is my client, Dana.
Hi.
He's been coming to me probably since the end of October.
At least, yeah.
And I'm going to have him tell you a little bit about himself, what he's been going through, and some of the changes from getting the treatment has been.
Okay, and as I go along, if I miss something, just remind me. Okay,
Slap.
because there's so, yeah, just slap me. That's right. Just get my attention, is all.
Okay.
Well, I'm a 77-year-old white male who at age 5 contracted the polio virus. And the effects of that were to create paralysis in all 4 quadrants of the body. And after several years of recovering from that, I started physical therapies and surgeries, orthopedic surgeries and such. So that creates some real scarring on the body along the right knee particularly, and there's a big scar that runs across from the wrist to the elbow. And learning a little bit about fascia, I realized what trauma cutting into the fascia creates stuff. So I have, after the polio, I just never looked back, and I just kept going forward. And
Now, were you able to walk and be normal, or have you always been in a motorized chair?
I learned how to walk again. After the treatment plan in those days was after the virus ended in the body, and if you survived it and didn't go into an iron lung or whatever, and then they let the body rest a bit for a while to see if it would recover anything. But along with that, you got whirlpool treatment, stretching, things like that. And after about 18 months, they concluded, like, okay, this is what he's got left, to work with. And then they started more intense rehab, bracing, very heavy bracing in those days, and then orthopedic surgeries, to try to, on the left foot, the foot was curving like into a U. And so they had to break the bone, reset it, and fuse it to stop that. And that worked. And that allowed me to use the left leg more. And then on the right, they tried to do a muscle relocation and taking muscles from one part to another. They kind of moved them around to create more tensions. And the first surgery, they forgot to tie things off. So the next summer, I was back in the hospital, and they got it right the second time. I think that's in part why these scars are so large also. They went along the same lines. And I think that ultimately did work, because somewhere along I remember the day that I was in long leg braces, and I was in the doctor's office, and the doctor said, "I'll release you if you will walk from where you are to me." Okay. And I went, okay, took a deep breath, and I made it. And so the doctor said, okay, you'll be able to, I'll release you. And quick sidebar, that set up a terrible breathing pattern because I held my breath and to get there. And I realized that really set a breathing pattern that's taken years to break. But anyway, different story. So I did. And by the time I was in high school, I had gotten out of long leg braces and was going toward a short leg brace on the right side, on the right leg. And that was the end of the bracing. At 16, I told my family, no more surgeries, no more reconstructive surgeries. I'm fine the way I am. I want to get on with my life, and don't cut me up anymore. And so I went on with the material, the strength that I had in the body, and have lived an absolutely great life. I've done everything I could possibly imagine, traveled around the world with my family, and all sorts of good stuff. But what's happened now is the long-term effects of polio or post-polio is such that the surviving motor neurons are wearing out. They're tired, and they get run down. And of course, the polio left me with more of an asymmetrical body, not a balanced body. So that has put tremendous stress on certain parts of the body. And I had amazing capacity to block that out until eventually I couldn't. And so I started using all sorts of different healing modalities. I've done acupuncture, worked with energy workers, all sorts of people throughout the years. But I never found anything that really, really helped me as much as I needed until I came here and I met you. and we started massage therapy treatments. And
What were you experiencing that brought you to me?
I was experiencing intense pain in the right scapula from a shoulder injury and in the lower left back from just sitting. I walked until about 20 years ago, and then I started using a power chair. So sitting all the time puts its own kind of stress on the body. And that was very painful. And I had gone cold turkey taking hydrocodone after many years. And so I didn't have anything, and till I came here. And that pain was so debilitating, the only way I could reduce it was to take the hottest shower imaginable until it was all gone, and that seemed to release some tension. What I've learned about fascia massage coming here is it does release the tension and the traumas. And so since I've been here, after about 6, 7 treatments, the pain in the right shoulder went away and has not come back. Now, I have weakness in the right arm and stuff that we can work on and do. And the pain in the low back also went away until I got a new power chair with a too hard a cushion. But that's not a mechanical, that's not related to the polios, I don't think. Anyway, so those were two of the major things. To reduce that pain really added great quality to my life, huge. It was a big step forward. And then I was not able to raise my right arm even up to the countertop. But after about a month and a half of treatment, I was able to raise it up. I was able to reach out, grab, hold on to things, and bring them to me. The right hamstring, somehow some part of those muscles got reactivated. And now I can stand on when I still stand, like to make meals in the kitchen. And now, instead of standing on the left side and putting all the stress on that, I'm able to shift my weight to the right side, which allows me to stand for about another 10, 15 minutes, which is really great. And so that's a real big help. Honestly, Jody, there were so many things along the way, I'm not remembering them all.
Right.
But I think the biggest parts were to reduce the pain, to increase my ability to use my limbs. In fact, I remember it was probably 2 months after we were doing this. I was out in the carport and with a friend, and I said, I want you to hold my hand. So I want to see if I could walk anywhere. And so I stepped out of the chair, and first 2 steps were kind of wobbly, of course. But then I took 20 steps with him holding my hand. Now, I had not done that since I could walk. So, I had to have help for balance, but still, the leg muscles were strong enough to allow me to do that. And so it's made things like standing, reaching much easier to drive the car. So, yeah, just a lot of really good that's come from this. And I see this now as more for us as a maintenance issue going forward. So, yeah, really good stuff as far as I'm concerned. I really think the fascia massage is just awesome. And I haven't even talked about how it released the trauma from having polio.
Right.
I'm just talking about the physical, mechanical things. The trauma from polio is extraordinary, and I never looked back. But at 77, there's not enough psychic energy to suppress those memories. You just can't. I saw my mother go through it. I went, oh my God. And so I've acknowledged that. And through in fact, the very beginning of this was when I realized that's what was happening. All this incredible pain that I was going through wasn't a new pain. It was the old pain, the trauma that had been stuck in the fascia coming out. And it was rough. It was tough. But knowing that it wasn't new and it was old got me through it, right? And now it's a lot different. I don't carry that emotional trauma with me like I used to, So that's a tremendous healing. That's worth a bar of gold right there.
Right.
Yeah, you bet.
All right, so
now we're going to put me in the sauna?
We're going to put him in the sauna, and he realized that the sauna was so good that he actually went out and bought one for his house.
I did. Yeah, it really helps the fascia. It seems to like heat a lot, and it seems to, and moisture and water.